just a moment, would you look at the camera? Just watch the camera. Today is Saturday, November 30th, 1991. I'm in Greensburg, Indiana, talking to Mr. Fred Craig, who in 1959 shot a 16mm sound film about the centennial celebration in Greensburg, Indiana. So, before we talk about the film, I'd like to talk just a little bit about you. Would you care to relate what your experiences have been since you first got involved in working in film?
All right. Well, when I was in high school in Greensburg, I did several student projects, educational films, and that sort of thing. One of them won a science fair medal, and from that point, my desire was to actually make motion pictures for theatrical release, and I moved to California and took up education there, and gradually moved into the film industry. Eventually, I had my own company for about 12 years, and then proceeded to join a group of people who were leaving the Disney studios to produce a feature-length animated film. That was Don Bluth and his partners. At that time, they asked me if I would like to join them in some capacity, and I said yes. That had always been my goal, was to work on feature-length films, as my company had been producing television commercials and educational films, industrial films, that type of thing. So I actually closed my business and joined what was then Don Bluth Productions, and we produced a feature-length animated film titled The Secret of Nim. From that point, we went on to doing some laser video games, which were interactive games with animated characters performing the parts, and we were able to create an arcade game that actually was an interactive game where the person playing the game could help tell the story through either failures and defeats or progressing the story along in a positive way. From that point, we got involved with Steven Spielberg and produced two films with him, An American Tale and The Land Before Time, and then we went on to do All Dogs Go to Heaven and Rockadoodle. At this point, we are producing our 8th feature-length animated film, and that brings us up to date with my career.
Okay, now about the 1959 film. When were you first, when was it first discussed about you're producing a film on the centennial? What were some of the, what were the circumstances around that?
There had been other communities in the southern Indiana area that had centennials or sesquicentennials during that period in the 50s. And there were companies who actually made a business out of producing these films, covering them in a documentary fashion, so that there was a record of the city's history and the parades and features of these centennial celebrations. And at that point in my career, I was actually looking for a larger project to do. I had done several student films, very small projects, and seeing some of these other promotional films that were being made sparked me to actually approach the Centennial Committee and say that my services were available if they thought I was capable of handling the project. And so funds were made available, and I was given an assignment to actually produce a promotional type of film, a documentary that covered all the events that took place in that centennial celebration in the summer of 1959.
What are some memories that come to mind regarding your experience during the filming?
Well, the Centennial Committee made a budget available which basically provided for film and laboratory services. And I had a friend, James Childress, who had a 16mm Bolex camera, and I had a 16mm Bolex camera. So we purchased film and covered all of the events that took place. We basically just did coverage as you would do news coverage. And then after we looked at all that footage, we decided to write a narrative around that that would actually make some kind of sense rather than just a day-to-day coverage. We tried to put a little bit of a story together that made the film as much of an event as the actual celebration was. We had a few technical problems to overcome. There was a pageant that took place, and it was necessary for us to rent a special lens because the theatrical lighting was very dim. This took place out at the fairgrounds, and I remember film stocks in those days, the exposure index on them was very, very low. And we ran across a film that had an exposure index of 100, which in those days was an extremely sensitive film. Today, we have film stocks that are 1600 and 2000, and what we did was we rented a special lens that had a very wide iris setting on it from a New York rental house, and proceeded to shoot those sequences on the fastest film there was at the time. Looking back at that, it really shows how the industry has grown as far as technology goes. But anyway, we would cover that pageant each night that it was shown, and then we selected the best footage that we got each night and edited that. The editing we did very crudely with projection equipment and a small little editing unit, just hand rewinds through, wrote a script, and then recorded a narration and some music tracks to go with that. All of this was combined very crudely, again, using multiple tape recorders and recording it onto a master recording machine. That was then sent away to a laboratory where it was put on optical soundtrack that could be combined with the film so that it was an integral part of the film and a finished composite print. We didn't have the sophisticated equipment that we needed to cut our original, so we were very appreciative of Indiana University's assistance in letting us use their audiovisual department. We used their editing machines and some of their cutting equipment to put the film together. I had another friend, Mike Ewing, who helped with the editing and the actual post-production finishing of the film, and Joe Donald Davis was also very helpful. We put an animated hook at the beginning which showed settlers discovering Greensburg and settling in. This was done with animation. Animation is always a thing that people, it attracts their attention rather than just a soft opening to something. Animation catches the eye and is a little bit more attractive than just a normal opening that you might have to a film. So we put that in complete with special multiplane artwork that had the camera moving through a third-dimensional environment, and a little bit sophisticated for a few student cameramen trying to produce a 75-minute film for the first time. It was quite a lengthy project, and We had a lot of enjoyment out of doing it, and I think we all learned a lot about filmmaking, and it really inspired me to go on, because the film was accepted as being semi-professional, if not a professional effort, and it was premiered at the Greensburg High School, and it was quite a turnout of the population of Greensburg and Decatur County.
How old were you when you shot the film?
This is a good question. Was I 17? 9, 17, yes. I was 17 years old at the time.
You were in high school?
Yes, I was a junior in high school at Greensburg High School.
How much film, how many feet of 16mm film did you shoot?
I think we shot about 5 to 8,000 feet. I'm not positive of the exact amount.
What became of the outtakes?
The outtakes, I'm not certain. I'm not certain where those are, or what happened to those. I may have them, but I'd have to look back and see. It's possible that I still have those.
That would be almost as interesting as the film itself.
Probably would.
From a historian's point of view.
Yes, it would. You're right. You're right, it would. I'm not sure where those are, or whether they were... We shot pretty much... edited in the camera quite a bit, so there wasn't a lot of extra footage, but there is some. I'll have to look in my own personal archives and see what I have, because there may be some other footage.
What was the first film that you shot?
The other than little experimental bits of animation and just playing around with the camera, I made a film about my father and his summer business, which was beekeeping business. And this film, again, it covered the entire process of the bee, the honey making process, and how my father actually extracted the honey, took the honey from the bees and extracted the honey. And there were, again, animation showing the flight path of the bee, how they navigate, how they get from the hive to the flower. Entered that film in the science fair and won a medal in Bloomington at Indiana University.
That was 16mm also?
It was,
Well,
yes.
you started out in 16mm.
I started out in 8. No, actually that film was shot in regular 8, and we blew that up to 16mm and put a magnetic soundtrack on. The school had a magnetic recording projector, 16mm, so we used that facility to put a soundtrack on it. My aunt, Mary Craig, was very much into classical music, and she was very instrumental in getting me interested in that part of filmmaking and how music actually works with the visuals. So we used a lot of classical record music that we more or less pirated at the time to put behind these projects. Of course, the projects were not for consumer consumption or sale, so we didn't have any problem just putting tracking music on and making that work as best we could to set the mood and tempo of the film that was being presented.